Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, the host of Forbes True Crime. Joining me now is attorney Chris Melcher. Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, Brittany. I'm excited to talk about the story.
I'm excited to get your take as an attorney on this case that's really gained international attention because former Olympian and now alleged drug kingpin Ryan Wedding was apprehended last week and now he's sitting in U.S. custody. Law enforcement officials allege he was in charge of running a multinational drug ring that involved moving massive amounts of cocaine from Colombia to Mexico, then to the United States and Canada. He has been described as the modern day Pablo Escobar and was on the FBI's most wanted list with a $15 million reward for any information that led to his capture. So, to start off the conversation, what are your thoughts on what we know so far right now?
Well, the story is almost fantastical to think that somebody who was an Olympian or Olympic athlete then could turn into an international drug lord. And from the accusations that this network, this criminal network, spanned multiple countries and was the largest supplier of cocaine in Canada, and this vast operation, it almost sounds like too much to be true. But then, of course, the government has what it says is evidence to make him out to be this drug lord. So it is an amazing fall from grace. And as one has described it, he went from shredding the powder on the slopes to selling powder on the streets.
I mean, Justin, as you said, amazing fall from grace. And it's almost like a movie, right? You see one of the world's most elite athletes, you have to be if you're an Olympian, then turn into an alleged drug lord. I know that you've represented celebrity clients before. I'm not really calling Ryan Wedding a celebrity, but he's more noteworthy than most, right? Every headline when describing this case is former Olympian, former Olympic athlete, former Olympic snowboarder. So when you see that, does that add anything to this case that he's more noteworthy than your modern or than your average everyday fugitive?
Well, absolutely, Brittany. And it was when I started in criminal defense, I learned a lot from my dad, who was a former prosecutor. And what he was telling me was that these cases that have a lot of attention are very difficult for the prosecution and the courts to get rid of. The cases where there is not all this attention on it are much easier for a prosecutor to settle and much easier for a judge to accept a plea deal when it should not make any difference, obviously, but when you have all this attention, there's a lot of scrutiny on the prosecutor, not just to give away that case and for a judge to accept some sweetheart deal. So that itself makes it very difficult. The other aspect of the notoriety is that there's nowhere to hide. In times past, and we we're even talking about Pablo Escobar being back then, it's a completely different world now. With we're leaving an electronic, breadcrumb everywhere we go. Even in Mexico, he could not hide, and there was too much notoriety. And when you're on the top 10 FBI's most wanted list, it is only a matter of time until you're caught, and that's what we're seeing here.
To that point, once you're added to that list, what only does that do for the investigation, but also the case? Because at that time, I can only imagine just how much time, how many additional resources are poured into your investigation. So once they find you, is that worse news for you?
Well, of course, Brittany, is that these are the 10 people that the FBI has determined are the most wanted among the probably thousands of people that they're looking for. And so these are special cases, and they're not going to give up on them. And there's a huge reward. I think it was $15 million reward at some point on his head, kind of a bounty. And then, so there's a financial incentive for people to cooperate and turn him in. And these could be people that maybe don't have anything to do with his operation, but maybe know about his whereabouts. It could also incentivize people who are part of the operation who would get some money by turning him in. That's a huge amount of money. The other thing is the cooperation element, where co-conspirators that are involved in this alleged, operation are looking out for their own, freedom here. And I think there were about 35 or so other people charged that were related to him. They also, to the extent that they know where he is, had an incentive. And I did hear some reporting about a negotiation that might have happened with Ryan and the government to turn himself in. And so there may have been this behind the scenes cooperation. And to finish answering your question about top 10 list is that there are so many incentives for people to cooperate, to turn in a top 10 fugitive, that again, it's only a matter of time until that person's caught.